Good afternoon, students. So now we're in week 10. And so this week, all you have to do is your week 10 forum where you hand in your narrative essay draft, and then you're going to write your 5-paragraph narrative essay for your week 10 forum. Then for your week 10 forum, you're going to do the credible sources worksheet, your APA worksheet. That's all the same thing. So two things, your week 10 forum and then your credible sources worksheet for week 10. And so in this video, I'm going to go over how to do the worksheet for your week 10 assignment. I'm going to go over APA, and I'm going to go over media bias and fake news. So that's what I'm going to go over. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go over the week 10. So how to evaluate credible sources for the week 10 credible sources assignment. So today's agenda: what is APA? How to do the week 10 credible sources assignment. The week 10 and 11 forum, different types of fake news, using Kapow to evaluate for credible sources. Also, do not use the same topic for your week 9 and week 10 post for your comparison contrast essay. So when you do your week 11 forum, we're going to go back to the week 7 and 8 comparison contrast essay that we were working on before. So next week we will be doing, we will go back to the comparison contrast essay that we were working on before. So common errors from previous students. What is wrong with these reference citations? And so here, student number 1 only gave their web address for their citation, and they're missing their author name, date, article name, website name, date they retrieved the website. So these are all incorrect because it's just all web addresses. These are the correct ways to do a reference citation, which comes at the end of your paper. So you have the author name, the date, the article name, the publication name, the pages, then the date that you retrieved the website, and then you have the web address. So this would be your reference citation, which comes at the end of your paper after the last page. When do we use APA in-text citations? In-text citations come inside the body of the paper after you cite medical facts, historical facts, dates, percentages, statistics, numbers, and definitions. And so APA stands for American Psychological Association. And APA is used in social science research and business research papers. We use APA when we cite medical facts, historical facts, numbers, statistics, percentages, complex facts, unusual facts, anything that is not common knowledge. Examples of common knowledge in the U.S. is December 25th is Christmas Day, December 24th is Christmas Eve, January 1st is New Year's Day. So we do not have to cite common knowledge, but we have to cite uncommon knowledge. So the Chinese New Year is based on the lunar calendar. So when you have uncommon knowledge, you have to cite the source. It becomes author, date, and page number. So we always cite uncommon knowledge. When we use APA in-text citations, these citations occur within the body of your paper. I will go over pie structure and how to exactly insert your in-text citation in my week 11 instructor session. Here are some common APA in-text citation mistakes made by students in the week 9 posts. Direct quote: marijuana lessens the effect of chemotherapy. So then you have to have author, date, and page number. So when you have a direct quote, this is a verbatim quote from your source. In other words, you're quoting it word per word. Paraphrase quote is when you summarize it. So when you summarize a source. And a reference citation is when you write the whole thing at the end of your paper. And so a direct quote is when you write about the medical facts, the scientific facts. You need to have beginning quotation mark and ending quotation mark. You need to have author, date, and page number. Paraphrase quote that's when you don't need any kind of quotation marks, and you just put the author and the date. And then reference citation is what comes at the end of the paper. How can we tell if a source is credible? We use kapow. The C in kapow. This article is credible because it was published in 2020. A stands for authority, and so that means that your paper was written by an expert, like Dr. Smith. P stands for the purpose of the article. So you got to make sure that the article you look for is not a TV ad. O stands for objective. So you have to make sure that the article that you find talks about both sides of an issue and is not biased. A bias is when something is just one-sided. W stands for writing style. So that means logical. It has a thesis. It means that the article has a thesis with supporting paragraphs. Here are some examples of in-text citations. Music therapy improves short-term memory, so that's a medical fact. The level of poverty will decrease through legal prostitution. One can have other benefits such as health benefits, IRAs, and paid time off, just as others in regular jobs do. Author, date, and page number. Then in Missouri, new officers start at $13.50 an hour. And so that's a dollar amount. And so whenever we use any kind of numbers, we have to use an in-text citation. In the 2008 recession, budget cuts caused officer layoffs. During this time in Memphis, use of force complaints doubled because of not enough officers. In 2010, English and Wales cut police budgets, resulting in 14% fewer officers in 2017, which led to 20% more gun, knife, and serious violent crimes. And so this is all percentages, and so whenever we use any kind of numbers, we have to cite the source, and we have to have quotation marks, and then we have to have the author, the date, and the page number. And so reparations will be a step forward toward breaking the generational curse of belittlement. So when you have historical facts, you have to have quotation marks, an author, date, and page number. 60% of adolescents spend their last hour before their sleep on phones, and they sleep 1 hour lesser than those who don't. This is also a reason that sleep deprivation is very common these days. And so here you have a medical fact and a numerical fact because it's 60%. So you got to have author, date, page number. Team-based video games can improve mental adaptability. So then you have author, date, and page number. What is a reference citation? We place the reference citation at the end of the paper after the last page of the paper. We provide a list of references at the end of the paper so the reader knows where you got your information from. We list our references in alphabetical order, and we use left-hanging indent to list our references. Every reference citation needs to have a matching in-text citation. While in-text citations are located in the body of the paper, reference citations are located at the end of the paper. While in-text citations only have a few items, author, date, page number for direct quotes, author and date for paraphrase quotes, reference citations have a longer format. So here in a reference citation, you have your author's last name is always first, followed by the first initial. It is followed by the year of publication in parentheses. Next is the title of the article or page you found the information. After that is the publishing body or owner of the website in italics. Finally, provide the date you found the information and link to the source. This is for a typical website reference. Page J, 2015, Purdue APA, Purdue University Online Writing Lab, retrieved August 18, 2015, from, and then you have the web address. So here is how you do your Week 10 Credible Sources worksheet. Go to Google Scholar and choose a topic, or go to the Fortis Online Library and choose a topic, and you need to find 3 credible sources. And so here you have the website link, the title of the page, the adverse impact on U.S. Society of COVID-19. Title of the website, whohealth.org. And then in one to three sentences, explain why the source is credible. The source is credible because they work with the CDC to report world health issues. I can use this paper to show people why we need to social distance. I use the Kapow method for the source. This article is C, current, because it is from 2020. The A for authorship is by a renowned author, Dr. Fauci. Purpose, this article is not intended to sell me something like in an ad. This article is objective and written by an expert. O, objective. The article is based on credible sources and not based on biased sources. W for writing style. The writing is formal and the grammar is correct. Since my article fulfills Kapow, then this article is credible. Quote with APA in-text citation. 70% of people with COVID die. So you have to have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark. You have to have the author name, the date, and the page number. And then in order to find this quotation, take a sentence from any article to cite it. And so here, and if you want to paraphrase, 70% of people with COVID die, then you have paraphrase APA in-text citation. Most people die of COVID. So this is Smith 2020. So you summarize a sentence from the article to cite it. Then your reference citation becomes Smith Patrick 2020, the severity of COVID, American Medical Journal, retrieved November 25th, 2021 from www.who.org. And so this is source one, okay? And then you just have to do 3 of these sources for your credible sources assignment. And so here is another example. Website link, title of the page, title of website. In 1 to 3 sentences, explain why the source is credible. This source is credible because of Kapow. This source is credible because the C is current within 2020. A, the author is not an actor. P, the purpose is not to sell you something, so it is educational. And O, it is objective and shows both sides of the issue. And W, the writing style is formal and has no grammar errors. And then the next thing, you have to have a direct quote. So 70% of people die of cancer, so that's a direct quote. And then when you have a direct quote, you have to have a beginning quotation mark and an ending quotation mark, and you have to have an author, a date, and a page number. Then you have a paraphrase with APA in-text citation. And here you do not have, you don't need quotation marks. You just have the author and the date. And then here you have a reference citation, the severity of cancer, and you just, put the reference citation at the end of your paper. And so you can find 3 sources. You can find these 3 credible sources either for your hobby or curiosity or for your comparison contrast paper. It doesn't matter the reasons why you do it. It's just that for your assignment, you just have to find 3 credible sources, then using Kapow, and then write a direct quote, write a paraphrase quote, and then write a reference citation. And that's the assignment 3 times. So once you learn how to do this assignment, then you learn how to use APA to avoid plagiarism. And so here is steps on how to create a flowchart graphic. So you go to the Insert tab, click on Smart Art Graphic, choose Cycle from the drop-down menu, and then here you can, this is how you do the pre-writing for your essay. Persuasive, week 10. So in week 10, we're going to be finishing up our persuasive essay rewrite, and we're going to write 5 paragraphs for our essay. So here is an example of somebody's essay. So I'll read it out to you. Here is the rewrite of a student paper. Online teaching has been an option for a while, but in recent years it has been used on a more regular basis. Online classes can be more flexible than in-person classes. They also provide a great variety of classes compared to in-person classes. Kids can spend more time at home with their families. Although some prefer online teaching, in-person teaching is more effective for young children because it is healthier, have fewer distractions, and has a structured environment. And so healthier becomes paragraph 2, paragraph 3 becomes fewer distractions and has a structured environment becomes paragraph 4. So that the 3 reasons for your thesis statement become your body paragraphs. When you have a thesis statement with matching body paragraphs, that's known as the 5-paragraph essay structure. So that's why that once you learn the 5-paragraph essay structure, you'll never go off topic. So second, there are fewer distractions for children in a physical classroom than at home. Many face challenges when learning online, including distractions when studying or attending classes. A child trying to listen to a lecture on their computer at home can be difficult. Their toys are in the next room, waiting to be played with. Video games and television sets can easily be turned on while the child mutes themselves and turns their video off on Zoom. Snacks are more easily accessible and tempting at home as well, unlike the classroom where food is not allowed. In a classroom, teachers can curtail any classroom distractions, such as rowdy students. It is easier to focus in a classroom. Third, in-person teaching provides more structure for children, which is important during developmental years. Structures and routines also help children learn how to control their behavior. Structure prepares children on how to react to the experiences they will have as adults. To conclude, online teaching has many benefits, but in-person teaching is more effective for young students because it is a healthier environment for growth. There are fewer distractions to pull them away from studying. Last but not least, in-person teaching provides a better structure than online teaching. Children have interactions with other kids at school, which can improve their mental health. They also have structured exercises in gym class to improve their physical health. Moreover, they can learn social and behavioral skills, not only from their peers, but also from their teachers. It is easier to focus in a classroom setting than it is at home, where many things can interrupt studying. It is important for children to have structure, to form good habits, and to prepare them for adulthood. In-person teaching provides this to a greater extent than online teaching does. And then here you have your reference citations, which comes at the end of your post or the end of your paper. And here you have your author, last name, author, first name, then you have the date, then you have the article name italicized, then you have the name of the website, the date that you retrieved the website, and your web address. So then you put it in alphabetical order. B comes before I comes before O, and that's it. How to do the week 11 forum. So in the week 11 forum, you're going to post the rough draft of your comparison contrast essay. Okay, and so that's what you're going to do. You will place the rough draft of your comparison contrast essay, that's the same essay that you did in week 7 and 8, into the week 11 forum for your initial post. You just transform the outline of your comparison contrast essay that you made in the week 7 and 8 forum, and you place that rough draft into the week 11 forum. Make sure you have a 5-paragraph essay structure for your rough draft. So what is wrong with this student's rough draft? So here is an example of something that somebody posted in their week 11 rough draft, week 11 forum. Books versus movies. To avid book readers like myself, there is nothing like getting a new book, the feel, its smell, and the excitement of getting to know the characters. Now, however, it seems every delightful book a person reads is turned into a movie thanks to modern technology. There are also people who prefer to watch the movie version of the book than read it, but I am not one of those people. For me, reading books makes a person use their imagination to visualize the characters, settings, and events that take place. There are also no more details in books that directors and authors of the books leave out. Improved language skills are also a reason to pick up a book and read. Fictional books are written about made-up characters, scenarios, which help expand children and adults' imaginations. With these types of books, a person envisions what you picture the characters to look like, their environment and how they interact with other characters, and even how their voices sound. A person can imagine in their reading journey. In the movie versions, a person sees what the director envisions. They choose the settings, music, and the overall idea of how they interpreted the book, which may not be the way you see it. So for the sake of moviegoers, directors cannot put every detail in the movie version of the book. If they did, it would make the movie 5 hours long, and most people will just leave the theater if it's 5 hours. So books are much better than movies because books have more detail, more character development, more plot development, and books can fit in more details. So if you want to know more about the story, books are better than movies. Also, when you read a book, you can improve your language skills. So reading to children or having them read aloud helps improve children's vocabulary and helps children understand the meaning of unfamiliar words. Also, reading can help the reader understand the world around them and what they should do in certain situations. And so when you read a book, you're learning a new skill, you're studying a new language, you're learning new vocabulary, you're getting empathy about the character, learning about new cultures. And so when you read a book, it's good for your empathy. Movies can also teach unfamiliar words and new languages, but they do not always explain the meaning behind them. And so books have more meaning than movies. So in the end, the book version is better than watching the movies. In books, you have to do something that little children do every day, and that is using your imagination, visualizing the characters, how they look, how they sound, and what they look like opens a whole new world. The details you get from the books are no comparison to what a director can make to come to life on the big screen with limited time. Becoming a better communicator and improving your vocabulary is something that puts reading above watching books. Movies are good, but reading is better for you. And so then she has her, so basically what's wrong with this is that she uses too much second person case. You, me. And so what this student needs to do is get rid of second person case and just use third person case only. So third person case is he, she, and they. Another mistake that she made is she's missing APA in-text citations. She has no APA in-text citations in order to back up her thoughts. And so in order to back up her main idea, she needs to have one APA in-text citation per paragraph. And so you use pie structure. So P stands for the main point of the essay, of the paragraph. I stands for the in-text citation. E stands for the explanation of that in-text citation in 5 sentences. So when you use pie structure and you use one in-text citation per paragraph, then you cut down on the number of in-text citations that you use, so you don't overwhelm the reader with too many numbers. And if you add one in-text citation per paragraph, you add to the credibility of your paper, and you make your paper sound more authoritative and credible. And then when we look for sources, we can use Google Scholar, and we can use Fortis Online Library. And we avoid sources like Wikipedia, and we avoid using ChatGPT for our research sources, because ChatGPT makes up its sources, and Wikipedia, anybody can upload any kind of information. So if you want to have credible sources, you want to use peer-reviewed articles that comes from Google Scholar or from the Fortis Online Library. So I'm going to go over more about credible sources and non-credible sources in the next part of this lecture. So reliable sources. Oh yeah, and then when you do your peer review means that you tell the student, this is when you post to two students, you want to give an actionable suggestion so that that student can improve their writing. So here's an example of a good peer review when you post to two students. Jan, you have a really great essay. You have a thesis statement with 3 reasons. You write about how books are better than movies because books improve language skills for children, books enhance imagination, and books give more story plot. So that's what you did really well. You've got really good essay structure. However, you have a few things that you need to improve. Your thesis is supposed to be the last sentence of the first, your thesis is supposed to be the last sentence of the introduction. Your body paragraphs don't completely match your thesis. Your topic sentences need to match more your thesis. And you can fix a few of your grammar errors. For example, you need a comma whenever you use an introductory phrase. But overall, excellent work. I too love to read books. When I read books, I get more out of books than watching a movie. So here, this student did an excellent peer review by using the sandwich method, where you talk about something positive, then you tell the person what they need to fix, then you end with something positive. So positive, negative, positive, or positive, area of improvement, and positive, just like a sandwich. Another example, Jody, you did a great job on your essay. Essay structure, and I agree with your topic and all of that. So that's start out with something positive, then you write about what's missing, but you're missing your in-text citations. Remember that for the comparison contrast essay, we have to have at least 1 reference and 1 in-text citation. And Jody, your reference citation is missing parts. You can go to the Purdue OWL library for great APA reference examples. So in your peer review, and I've seen some students do this really well, is you give references and extra sources for other students to use. And so several of you have done that, and I commend you, congratulate you for giving good peer review suggestions. And so remember that when we give these peer review suggestions, we are helping the other student improve their grade, just like you want other students to help you improve your grade when you read feedback. So what goes around comes around. It's all about karma. So when you post to 2 students, that's how you're going to do the peer review. And so we're getting to the last part of this class. Isn't that exciting? We're in week 10, so that means I only have 2 more lectures to give to you. And so the last day of this class is going to be September 29th, Friday. Everything is going to be due. So that's going to be in about 16 days. So a little over 2 more weeks left to this class. So that's really exciting. So now for the next part of this lecture, I'm going to go over reliable sources for your paper. So reliable sources include primary and general reference sources. What is a primary source? A primary source are original sources that typically include conference presentations, dissertations, memoirs, photographs and paintings, speeches, works of literature, government documents. Secondary sources are not original sources. Instead, these sources seek to analyze, interpret, or comment on primary sources. Secondary sources include biographies, literature reviews, articles written about primary sources, general reference materials, encyclopedias, world fact books, dictionaries, atlases, manuals, and reserved reference materials, books, periodicals, reports, videos, and journals. And all of these are available in your Fortis online library. And here, the most reliable source is a peer-reviewed article. What is a peer-reviewed article? So the most credible and likely the one you will use the most throughout your academic career are peer-reviewed articles. These are found in college and university online libraries. So the Fortis library has a lot of databases. And so by looking at those databases, each database specializes in different subjects. And by searching through different databases on different subjects, you can find whatever topic you're looking for. And it's always the peer-reviewed sources are the best sources for your paper. And so highly credible sources are also websites such as the CDC, .edu, or .gov. University and college sites are also great sources too. So you can often find statistical information as well as articles within any given university website. They always end in edu. Finally, organizational websites will house excellent data and historical information. These always end with .org. Here are some examples of popular sources versus peer-reviewed sources. Popular sources are sources like the National Enquirer. Any magazine that you see at the grocery store is a popular source. Anything that you see on Google Scholar or in your online library, that's a peer-reviewed source. So a popular source is what you read at the grocery store, and a scholarly source is what you read at the library. That's the main difference. And so when you have a popular source, that's anything from, advertisements to, any kind of website. And sometimes they don't even have credentials. Anybody could just make up anything, you see. So that's why they're not reliable. A peer-reviewed source, however, has been peer-reviewed by other experts. See, and it's always written, and then scholarly sources are always written in a formal tone. And they use a lot of technical words. And then popular sources, it's like the difference between Facebook and LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you've got a lot more formal articles, and on Facebook, you could write about just about anything. So Google Scholar is a great place to find peer-reviewed articles. Unreliable sources. Unreliable sources include ChatGPT. I can't say that often enough. ChatGPT is unreliable, even though it's not on this particular, this picture that I made, because this picture was made several years ago and ChatGPT just came on. But you can use ChatGPT for brainstorming or revising your thesis statement. Or if you have a sentence, for instance, and you think, oh, that sentence sounds so awkward, you can stick that sentence into ChatGPT and ask it to regenerate that sentence in a more formal tone, okay? Or you can stick your entire essay into ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT, write this. In other words, you've already written your essay. You've already written your rough draft by yourself. Now you're revising so you can use ChatGPT for revision, and you can use ChatGPT for brainstorming. But do not use ChatGPT to write your essay for you. That's plagiarism, and you'll get a 0 for the assignment. And then don't use ChatGPT for your research sources, because it makes it up off the top of its head, okay? And if you're going to write a professional paper for, say, nursing, and you use ChatGPT, and then other people read it, and they want to look for where you got the information from, and they find that it doesn't exist, then they realize it comes from ChatGPT, you get fined. I don't know if you read that article. This lawyer used ChatGPT for his legal research, and then when everyone wanted to look up, his sources were non-existent. He got laughed at. I think he got in a lot of trouble, and he got to pay $5,000. So people were suing him for, he didn't do the correct research. And then the guy said, oh, but I thought ChatGPT was a good place to look for sources. Oh, I didn't know it could lie. And of course, everybody else knew that, and everybody else was laughing at him. He became the laughing stock of the legal profession. And I remember my cousin, who is a lawyer, was laughing as he told the story. What an idiot! So that means that if you use ChatGPT for your professional research, you're going to get laughed at, and then maybe somebody will take away your license. I think the guy just got fined $5,000, and that was it. He got laughed at and fined $5,000, but he's still a lawyer, that sort of thing. So other lawyers were laughing at him, and my cousin, who is a lawyer, was thinking, did you hear about that stupid guy that, and we were like, I had already read about it, and I remember posting that very article from LA Times to my classes saying, you don't want to be the person being laughed at for using ChatGPT for research. So anyway, so you don't use Wikipedia because anybody can upload any article. We don't use blogs, tweets, personal pages. We don't use, this is defunct. But this used to be like everybody used it, but I don't think this exists anymore. But we don't use this. We don't use forums, and we don't use biased sites. And so they're all unreliable sources. How do you find credible sources? We use Kapow. So C stands for currency. How new is the website? A stands for authority. Who wrote it? Purpose. What do they want you to know? O, objective. Is it fact or opinion? Writing style. Does it list sources? And do those sources exist? So that means that if you do use ChatGPT, let's say you use it for your research, you have to fact check it to make sure those sources exist. Otherwise, you're going to become the laughingstock, like my lawyer cousin laughing at some guy. Anyway, so, and it's rare to see him laughing at someone. He's usually so serious, but then he couldn't believe someone was stupid enough to do something like that. That's what he said. So which one of these articles represents an unreliable source? And so remember, I told you that Kapow lists the C for currency, A for author, P for purpose. And so purpose means that if an article is written as an advertisement, that is not a reliable source, because all advertisements make a claim and then they don't back it up with credible evidence. Anytime anybody makes a claim and they don't back it up with credible evidence, then you don't believe that, because it's a fallacy. A fallacy is when if I were to say simply, did you know that my ancestors came from Mars? And I have no proof whatsoever. I just made it up off the top of my head. Are you going to believe me? No. So if I make an advertisement and I say, my washing machine is the best in the world because I say so, you going to believe me then? Any kind of ad, they have a hidden agenda where they want you to buy their product, so they're going to exaggerate the truth. They will distort it, or a lie, out and out lie to get you to buy their, they call that snake oil. That used to be very, very common in the early 20th century. People would sell you snake oil or all kinds of concoctions promising you that you're going to live a long life, or it's going to cure old age. If you drink this miracle oil, suddenly an 80-year-old is going to become 25 or something. And people believed it, you see. And so they're lying. So some people out and out lie. So that's why the P in Kapow, purpose, means that what can you believe? So you can believe in credible sources, but you cannot believe the non-credible sources. So that's why when you write your paper, when you read anything, you have to know the difference between fact and opinion. Opinion is, I come from Mars and I have no proof to back it up. That's an opinion. A fact is when you back something up with credible evidence, such as such as a peer-reviewed article. So if you use peer-reviewed articles in your paper, or if you Kapow all your websites and you know that the website you're using is credible, then you have a credible paper. So for your comparison contrast essay, you're going to be required to write at least one APA in-text citation and one APA reference citation. And no, this was not my idea. No, I didn't write this class, the class design. Fortis wrote this class. Every English teacher that teaches at Fortis has the same requirements, the same. So I could be Dr. Smith or Dr. Jones, and I still have to require one APA in-text citation, one reference citation, because that's what that's what Fortis wrote on the classroom, because every teacher gets the same classroom, you see. So somebody wrote those requirements, and I don't know the name of the designer, to tell you the truth. So anyway, the Fortis requires you, for your comparison contrast essay, to have APA, to have at least one APA source. So getting back to this, how do you know which one of these is credible? Which one should I read and believe in? Which one can I use for my paper for a source? Well, anything that says sponsored or sponsored, right away you know that's an ad. And so sometimes the advertisements will embed themselves inside a web page like this one to make it look like they're a real article you can believe in. And that's why anytime it says sponsored stories, you know not to believe that. You know that is a fallacy of relevance. A fallacy of relevance means that someone makes a claim and with no credible evidence. Okay, so we want to ignore the sponsored stories. This is known as popular sources. I was just going over popular sources. These are all non-reliable sources because they're not scholarly sources, and then they're not peer-reviewed sources. Okay, so here, what is fake news? Fake news is a term that has come to mean different things to different people. At its core, we are defining fake news as those news stories that are false. The story itself is fabricated with no verifiable facts, sources, or quotes. Sometimes these stories may be propaganda that is intentionally designed to mislead the reader, or may be designed as clickbait written for economic incentives. In other words, the writer profits on the number of people who click on the story. In recent years, fake news stories have proliferated via social media, in part because they are so easily and quickly shared online. Fake news is when you make a claim without using credible sources. Fake news is used to mislead the public or provide propaganda to confuse the public. Fake news causes mistrust, misinformation, and manipulation of public opinion. Fake news occurs everywhere, like in your social media newsfeed. So do not trust what you see on Facebook, Twitter, or any other social media, or on ChatGPT for that matter, unless you can back that up. So, a Pew Research Center found that those on the right and the left of the political spectrum have different ideas about the definition of fake news. The Pew study suggests that fake news panic, rather than driving people to abandon ideological outlets and the fringe, may actually be accelerating the process of polarization. It's driving consumers to drop some outlets to simply consume less information. So basically, fake news is causing people, if you're a Democrat, you're going to go to, say, CNN, and you're going to read everything wonderful about Biden. And then, at least that's what it used to be. And because in CNN, the Democrats, they support Biden for the most part, and but they definitely hate Trump. Then if you go to Fox News, it's the opposite. They definitely hate Biden but love Trump. And so that's known as biased news, when you take sides, because when you report the news, anything that's objective, in other words, you have to report both sides of an issue in order for the source to be believable. So if the source only reports one side of an issue, like CNN or Fox News, you know not to believe what they're saying. Different types of fake news. So you have propaganda, in which, for example, China, whenever China gives out its newspapers, the English version, they only talk about only the good things in China, never about anything bad, because the propaganda, meaning it's one-sided, they just only want you to think that everything is great in China. So whenever you have information that's that one-sided, written by a government, that's known as propaganda. And clickbait is when you have an advertisement of saying, oh, look at that beautiful actress, but she's really ugly now. Look what happened to her now. And so that makes you so curious. You want to click on that image to see, well, whatever happened to that? Is she dead? Is she still around? And so that's known as clickbait. And so clickbait is eye-catching, sensational headlines designed to distract and often misleading content. And then as soon as you click on it, it drives ad revenue. Sponsored content. That's when I showed you anything sponsored or any ad is a fallacy of relevance. Partisan. So anything that only, like Fox News or CNN.com, those are all partisan news outlets because one Fox News leans to the Republicans, and CNN leans to the Democrats. So we know not to believe any of them because they're all one-sided. Conspiracy theories. In a conspiracy theory, I just make something up and I don't back it up with anything. So if I say, so conspiracy theory tries to explain simply complex realities as a response to fear or uncertainty. So not falsifiable and evidence that refutes the in other words, you just make things up off the top of your head because of fear. Pseudoscience. So pseudoscience is snake oil. In other words, I'm going to sell you the fountain of youth, and if you drink this oil, you're going to become young again. So that's known as, see, they even have snake oil. Pseudoscience. Purveyors of greenwashing, miracle cures, anti-vaccination and climate change denial, misrepresents real scientific studies with exaggerated or false claims, and often contradicts experts. So that's pseudoscience. Other kinds of fake news: satire and hoax, social commentary or humor, error. In other words, when a news outlet makes a mistake and then they apologize for it. Misinformation, in which you have a mixture of fact and factual, false, or partly false content. Intention can be to inform, but author may not be aware the content is false. False attribution, doctored content, and misleading headlines. So that's misinformation. Bogus information means you make it up entirely off the top of your head. False attribution means that, well, that's kind of like what ChatGPT does. ChatGPT makes up its own sources. It makes up sources that doesn't exist. So that's also fake news. So that's false attribution. Counterfeit means that let's say I spam you and I pretend that I'm Bank of America and I ask for your password so that I say that somebody has broken into your account. I need your password so I could change your password for you. But I'm phishing because banks will never ask for your password. So therefore, that's a spam. So that's a counterfeit, and they'll send a counterfeit, real-looking Bank of America website to ask you for it. So that's known as counterfeit phishing website. Doctored content. Oh, it's so easy to do doctored content because of deep fake videos and AI. With AI, someone can clone your voice, clone your face, and then clone, and take away your ID, your identity theft. And so doctored content, or you can make Hillary Clinton say something she never said. And so doctored content means that you change the content of a real video into something make-believe. And so content such as statistics, graphs, videos, anything, even now voices can be modified, all because of AI. So AI opens the door to so many security headaches for people. So here I've gone over clickbait. So here is a picture of clickbait, they would say, and it makes you click on it because she looks so beautiful. Here is an example of a sponsored article. And here is an example of propaganda. So propaganda is when the government of a country tries to make themselves look good. And they give out false information, and they give you this false impression that everything in that country is just always perfect, and it's all one-sided, okay? So anytime you get one-sided news or biased news, you know not to believe it. Satire and parody. So if you go to websites like The Onion, Waterford Whispers, or the Daily Match, all of these media websites, they tell you that they're a satire. And sometimes the satire is pretty funny too. So you should go visit The Onion if you want to have a laugh. So here they make fun of the real news. So it's just entertainment. So here's an example of satire. The Los Angeles mayor prevents his kid from lazing about by installing spikes on a family couch. So here he puts spikes on a couch so to prevent his kids from just lying around all day watching TV and not doing their homework. Obviously, you're not really going to do that to your kids. This is just satire. So that's an example of satire. So here you have misleading headings, manipulated videos, and sponsored stories are all unreliable. So anytime you see sponsored stories, anything underneath that, we cannot use that for our paper, because that is all unreliable, because it says sponsored. It's just all advertisements. We don't use advertisements or ChatGPT for our, for our paper. See, all of these papers, all of these, everything here, because it says sponsored stories you may like, and these are all just ads and clickbait, and therefore we cannot use any of that for our paper. And so here is a media chart, media bias. This shows you can only trust the media that's in the middle here, something that's objective and neutral. Then you can trust it. You cannot trust anything on the left, too much Democrats, and you can't trust everything on the right, too much Republicans, because everything here is, oh, I love Trump. Here, oh, I love President Biden. And here, you're supposed to be in the middle. You're not supposed to love or like anybody, okay? It's supposed to be totally objective. That's why I tell my students to write their papers in third-person case and to avoid first-person and second-person case and to use third-person case in order to make their papers objective and to avoid bias. And so all of these are what we can trust in the middle, at least in 2018. Now let's look at 2021. See, everybody's more polarized. There seems to be no such thing as neutral, okay? And so here, everything is either to the left or to the right. And so if you want, fewer and fewer sources now are neutral, okay? In 2018, you could trust this much. Now, due to social media, people who are on the left have news feeds and Facebook, that's all for the Democrats, and then people in Twitter and I think Elon Musk X are all to the right. And also there's another social platform as well. So everyone now has their own social platforms. And also I heard people who are Democrats will move to blue states, and people who are Republicans are going to move to red states. So people don't even want to mix with people from other parties, you see. So everything's gotten so polarized, I think, because of social media. And so you can't trust any of these sources because they're either to the left or to the right. And so you want to trust a source that's non-biased. And so allsides.com seems to be the only one. See, allsides.com is the only, because here, this is how it looks like. Left, center, Republican, moderate Republican, extreme Republican, moderate left, extreme left. And so basically, they'll put all of their articles, and then they're going to have the point of view, everyone's point of view. When you want objective news, you want everybody's point of view, not just of the Republicans, not just of the Democrats. You want everyone's point of view, because that's the O in Kapow. Your source has to be neutral and objective. And so allsides.com gives you that all sides point of view. That's something you can believe in. So you can go to allsides.com. It's a great place for you to find news that you can believe in. Here are 7 types of mis- and disinformation. As we went over satire or parody, you have misleading information, you have imposter content, when genuine sources are impersonated, such as scammers scamming the Bank of America to ask for your password, fabricated content designed to deceive and do harm, that's the same thing, phishing, false connection, when headlines, visuals, or captions don't support the content, false context, when genuine content is shared with false contextual information, manipulated content, when genuine information or imagery is manipulated to deceive. And that's really easy to do with AI. So how do we recognize fake news? So fake news usually has a lot of emotion and tone. So if a news story has a dramatic headline or includes exclamation points or all caps, It may be a false and misleading story. In addition, be skeptical of stories that make use of emotionally charged language. So balance news sources. Use neutral language and standard punctuation in headlines and stories. Consider the source. If the source of the article is unknown or not well known, be suspicious. Beware of articles that do not list an author or publication date. Trusted news sources will include information about article, author, and the publication date. Citations and images. If an article does not include information about the sources or facts, quotes, and images, it could be a false story. Think ChatGPT. It is extremely easy to cut and paste stories, quotes from other stories, or use mislabeled photographs found online. So try a Google reverse image search to find photographic sources. Social media. If you first saw a story on social media site like Facebook or Twitter, there is a chance that the news may be false, misleading, or biased. Make sure to check out the accuracy of any story you see on social media before you share it. Check trusted sources of news for similar stories. So is ChatGPT reliable? Yes and no. So here you have an article about some guy who used ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is an AI chatbot that is capable of making up sources. So here is an article from the LA Times where a lawyer is facing discipline over bogus research by AI. So this lawyer, that's the one my cousin was laughing about, saying this lawyer used ChatGPT for its research. And then ChatGPT made up its sources, and now that lawyer is being laughed at. So judge may sanction 2 attorneys whose filing had false information that was generated by the popular ChatGPT. 2 lawyers responding to a federal judge have blamed ChatGPT for tricking them into including fake legal research in a court filing. Attorneys Stephen A. Schwartz and Peter LaDuca face possible punishment over filing in a lawsuit against an airline. The filing included references to non-existent court cases invented by artificial intelligence ChatGPT. Schwartz said that he thought the cases were real, and when he used the groundbreaking program to hunt for legal precedents supporting a client's suit against the Colombian airline Avianca over an injury received during a flight in 2019. This chatbot, that is ChatGPT, which has fascinated the world with its essay-like answers to user prompts, suggested cases of aviation mishaps that Schwartz hadn't found through the usual means at his law firm. The problem was several of these cases weren't real or involved airlines that didn't exist. Schwartz told U.S. District Judge P. Kelvin Castell in Manhattan on Thursday that he had been operating under a misconception that this website was obtaining these cases from some source I did not have access to. He said he failed miserably at doing follow-up research to ensure that the citations were correct. And this is the part that's the funniest. I did not comprehend that ChatGPT could fabricate cases. Okay, so that one line that the Schwartz guy said made him the laughingstock of his entire profession. That's the one line. Everybody goes, and the guy thought that he could, So that means that if you do use ChatGPT for your sources, you have to fact check it. You have to make sure those sources exist so that you don't become like this Schwartz guy and you get laughed at out of, and then later, in a later article, this guy gets to write a $5,000, I don't know if I posted that. So is ChatGPT reliable? And I guess I didn't finish writing my article. No, not for research. So ChatGPT, we don't use it for research. You could use ChatGPT for brainstorming brainstorming ideas, for revision of a sentence or two. In other words, you can use ChatGPT in the same way you use Grammarly, pretty much. If you want to check up grammar mistakes on your essay and you say, okay, ChatGPT, make sure I have no grammar mistakes and rewrite and correct all my grammar mistakes and give me sentence variety and give me and revise all of my sentences, so that sort of thing. So anything that you would use Grammarly for, because you can use Grammarly for the same thing. Grammarly also does sentence variety, third person case, tone, all the things that you use Grammarly for, you could use ChatGPT for. And Grammarly can also help you with your, like if you're like stuck, I don't know what to write about, and the teacher wants to write me to write a persuasive essay. I have no idea what to write about. Then you could click in. You can use ChatGPT like you would use Google, and you would just type in persuasive essay topics. Press the button. So you can use ChatGPT in the same way you use Google, and in the same way you use Grammarly. In those two ways. That make it easier for people to understand, because I use Google myself for idea generation. If I'm grading someone's paper and I want to help them come up with 3 reasons why they want to become, say, a nurse. So I would Google benefits of nursing, and then I would find my reasons. So if you can use ChatGPT the same way you use Google and Grammarly. That's an easy shortcut way. Don't try to use it for anything else. That is ChatGPT, because then you run into the same problem this guy ran into. He ultimately got fined $5,000. So that's a different article. I'll look for it from my other class, because I did post it from my other school. Anyway, so that's it. That's it for this version of week 10. And so for your week 10 assignment, all you have to do is just do your week 10 forum and your week 10 worksheet. Just a week 10 forum, week 10 worksheet, and that's it. And so if you have any questions, you can always email me anytime. So let me get out of this. And so I hope you have a great week. We only have 2 more weeks left. So that September 29th, Friday, September 29th, midnight, Pacific, that's the last day of class. So if you have any, and then if you try to ask for an extension after September 29th, I cannot give that to you. Also, another new feature, they're going to lock the classroom. That means that after midnight, you're not even going to have access to your classroom anymore. So if you're just 1 second after midnight, you're screwed. So you have to do your assignments on time. And I suggest you just get everything done way before midnight. Don't wait until at the stroke of midnight, because the classroom is just going to lock. And I have no authority to change that. That's just something school-wide. All your classes are going to be like that. Not just this class, okay? Not just your English 101 class. Every Fortis College class is all going to lock down on midnight Pacific. It's just like with a Cinderella. At midnight, she suddenly turned back to her rags and pumpkin and the mice that were leading the pumpkin. In other words, suddenly she looks poor again. Okay, so midnight, that's the magical time when everything gets closed. So you must hand in your paper and all your assignments midnight Pacific time. That's 3 a.m. Eastern. Okay, so if you live on the East Coast, 3 a.m. Eastern, September 29th, Friday. And then 3 hours, that's three hours later. So sorry, that would be, so therefore, just remember, midnight Pacific, September 29th, Friday. So if you have any questions about your missing assignments, feel free to email me anytime.